Fargo Police now say there was another victim of a separate crime early Sunday morning on Broadway here in downtown Fargo. Police now say the Cass County Sheriff's deputies responded to a report of an aggravated assault just a couple blocks north of the shooting incident on the 50 block of Broadway, where 3 people were shot and 1 died. A couple blocks away on the 300 block, a 55-year-old male was put into critical condition yet as of today, and police are searching for 2 suspects. You see them here in video, still shot from surveillance video. And apparently a bit of a mix-up on who was handling the case. Sheriff's deputies did not report it to the police department right away, but here's their news conference explaining all this.
Another kind of significant crime that's come to our attention, aggravated assault victim that also occurred downtown Sunday morning. I've got with me Lieutenant Nate Neiman, who is a Criminal Investigation Unit Commander. Of course, the Mayor and Representative Sheriff's Department, Captain Tim Brigham. Both Lieutenant Neiman, Captain Brigham will provide the details of this incident. It is an active investigation. We also have some information at the end. We'll be looking for the public's assistance and identifying a couple of individuals involved in this aggravated assault case. And I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Neiman, and at the end, we're all happy to stand for questions.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Nate Neiman. Thank you all for being here. While the Fargo Police Department was actively investigating the shooting in the 50 block of Broadway, mutual aid was requested for assistance with emergency calls in the city of Fargo. On August 3rd, 2025 at 3:07, the River Valley Dispatch Center received a call from a citizen reporting a male in the 300 block of Broadway who sustained significant injury and was in need of medical assistance. The Cass County Sheriff's Office, the Fargo Fire Department, and Sanford Ambulance responded to the scene. The victim was transported to a local hospital for treatment. Later that same day, family members of the victim contacted the Fargo Police Department to inquire if he had been involved in the downtown shooting. We can confirm that this incident is entirely separate from the earlier shooting. Officers spoke with the victim's family on Sunday evening. However, there was no report in the system and no notification from the other agency about the details of that incident. On August 5th, 2025, the Fargo Police Department was notified that the victim's injuries were life-threatening. The Criminal Investigations Division immediately began formally investigating the incident. Detectives have since reviewed surveillance footage from the area and have confirmed that the victim was assaulted in the 300 block of Broadway North. As of today, the victim is still in critical condition, with family, and being assessed and treated by doctors. The Fargo Police Department is requesting any information on this violent assault. Anyone with any information, please contact the Fargo Police Department through TIP 411 or our tip line. The Fargo Police Department and our metro area partners will continue to diligently work towards solving this assault, and will keep you informed as we know more.
Good morning. I'd like to start out by thanking Chief Zabolski and the Fargo Police Department for allowing us to be part of this news conference today. It's important for me to advise you right now that Sheriff Johnner is on a family vacation out of state with his wife. It is important for me to let you know that Sheriff Johnner was unaware of this incident in its entirety until about 8:15 this morning. Sheriff Johnner had made immediate arrangements to cancel the remainder of that vacation, and he is en route back to Fargo as we speak. And Sheriff Johnner will make himself available to any and all media outlets at some point this evening. And I just kindly ask that you await for some type of news release that we'll push out through this agency, as well as any and all phone calls that Sheriff Johnner receives. As you all know, or I guess I'm here to explain that our office did assist the Fargo Police Department early Sunday morning with priority calls for service due to what they were dealing with in downtown Fargo and South Fargo. Yesterday afternoon, I received a phone call from a lieutenant from the Fargo Police Department, which is the first time that our agency was made aware of this assault. And when I say our agencies, we obviously had 2 deputies that did respond, but outside of those 2 deputies, it wasn't a call for service that was noted that we saw in our calls for service, whether it be a priority call or report that we had reviewed. When I learned of that information, I immediately began digging into it, which included providing the Fargo Police Lieutenant with the body-worn camera footage, as well as phone contact with the 2 deputies that had initially responded. They have completed reports, at which time I believe they will be sent to Fargo Police in somewhat of a timely fashion. I would like to kind of spell out the time frame of the events when we were covering calls for the city of Fargo. The call itself was generated at 3:08 a.m. Our 2 deputies that ultimately did respond were on a separate call for service, cleared from that, got this call at 3:23 a.m. and responded to the 300 block of Broadway emergent. They arrived on scene, I believe it was, yes, our deputies arrived on scene right at 3:26. The patient/victim was loaded up in the ambulance. He was on a gurney, and the details that our deputies received was that they were there for an uncooperative or an unruly patient. Our deputies did assist in adequately restraining this individual. They exited the ambulance transported patients, and our deputies were sent to a separate call for service in South Fargo with regard to a suicidal juvenile. We did not provide any further follow-up once we had exited the ambulance. And again, we were unaware of the severity of this situation until I was notified by a Fargo Police Lieutenant yesterday. Currently, the investigation is being handled by the Fargo Police Department, as Lieutenant Neiman advised. As mentioned, we have provided our body-worn camera and our police reports, and we will remain 100% available to the Fargo Police Department should they have any further questions or require any other assistance from our agency. I want to hammer one key point right now, and that appears to be what is the lack of our response from our agency on this call for service. At face value, our deputies were sent to assist fire and EMS, what was identified as an uncooperative patient. Like I had mentioned, it took 3 minutes for them to get there. I don't know any of the whys as to what they knew as far as on their MDT and what they reviewed. I don't know any of the whys outside of they were told initially of the assault, but I don't know the whys as to why they didn't ask further questions. I don't know any of the whys as to why they haven't conducted any further follow-up prior to getting it to the Fargo Police Department. I will tell you that Sheriff Johnner prides himself on transparency and accountability, and unfortunately that's somewhat prevalent within our agency over the last few years, and I say that because that's a key to how I can assure you he will continue to look into this incident. I don't have those answers, but we do have an internal review process that will take place. As I mentioned, this is Sheriff Johnner's agency. These are Sheriff Johnner's decisions, and we have to wait for his return back to Fargo before we get some of that stuff in place. I do feel it'd be extremely inappropriate for me to start to speculate without knowing a lot of the answers as to the why we didn't investigate it further than just providing some level of assistance to fire or EMS. So I do kindly ask that you allow that process to take place. And outside of that, Chief Zabolski, I don't have anything further. I would turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming in and representing. One big focus for us right now, obviously, is identifying the individuals involved, and then, continuing to hope and pray for the full recovery of this victim who is in critical condition yet in the hospital. And we've got photos that we're going to be pushing out through our social media. You may even have, is it out there? Okay, perfect. So we're asking the public to look at these 2 individuals. If you know who they are, call the dispatch center or call the tip line so that we can connect with you, get these people properly identified, locate, arrest, and bring them to justice as well. This was a pretty violent incident. Again, separate from the shootings themselves. We don't know that there's any connection whatsoever to any of these folks. The victim in this case is about a 55-year-old male from Fargo. And so, again, we don't think that these are connected other than it was a separate violent incident a couple blocks away from all of the other activity that our folks in Cass County and others were involved in. So that's where we really want to focus, identifying these folks and taking the case from there. We've got our detectives on this as well, as we continue to clean up the other pieces, find Tyreek Jones and those types of things. So with that, I think we're happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, sure. I guess I'm just curious. It sounds like this incident came under your guys' purview quite recently. Are you able to say why it took so long? Was there some sort of breakdown in communications, or was there a failure in the process, I guess?
Well, I think as Captain Brigham mentioned, that they'll have to look into it on their side in terms of why reports and notifications weren't done, so we don't really have the answer for that. We could say that in that situation, we would expect any of our personnel to perform an investigation. They were told by the ambulance staff that the man had been assaulted. It was an evident gash to his head, and there was, in essence, a crime scene there and other things that should have been done. We don't know why they weren't done, or if there's other information that wasn't known, I guess. But that's going to fall to the sheriff's side to determine that. Our role over at Fargo PD is to take this now and move the investigation forward, identify and arrest these folks.
I'm wondering if we could get some numbers regarding the mutual aid, because when you see a news release that says 2 different sheriff's departments, 2 different police departments were also called to the scene, it seems like a lot. So do we have like any numbers on how many law enforcement officials were out on the evening?
I'm sure we could get that. I don't have that right now, but I'm sure we could get that information. We know how many agencies, but you want actual people? Yeah.
Yeah, whoever would be the best answer, probably Fargo PD. Obviously, the shooting that happened Sunday morning was in the 50 block of Broadway. This assault happened in the 300 block of Broadway. What was the perimeter that Fargo PD set up for that initial call of the shooting? It seems like it's only a couple of blocks away, potentially. Were there any police officers in that area when this assault happened just about an hour or so after that shooting?
Yeah, I can't answer that one at this time. I can tell you that that's really, what's it, 2.5, 3.5 blocks away. I doubt that the crime scene extended that far. There wouldn't have been a necessity for that from what I know about the initial crime scene. The victims were right in that 50 block area. I'm sure that area was secured, but I wouldn't imagine the perimeter was any larger than that. As to whether or not there were any other people on that block, I don't know, but I think you could maybe connect the dots from the fact that the sheriff's office was sent to that call, meaning there was no one else there to send. Our regional dispatch center has GPS locators for all of our personnel, and so they can see who's close, who's not close. So I would speculate that there wasn't any officers in that immediate area.
Chief Ken Duffy with Flag Family. A lot of people think that this has been a big fiasco from the beginning concerning an informational standpoint to the response. And now we're hearing now that there was an assault that was not communicated between Cass County and Fargo Police. As far as your future here in Fargo, do you believe that you should stay on as police commissioner or should you step down?
I firmly believe that I should stay as police chief, and I think these incidents don't have any bearing on that. This was a very bad day for our city and the victims involved. In terms of interagency communication, we'll certainly take a look at that with Sheriff Johnner going forward, because until they do their part of the investigation, we don't really know why that didn't happen. We know what should have happened. And again, that's out of my control in terms of that piece. Certainly, we want to continue to maintain public safety throughout the city. We've heard you talk many times about adding officers so that we are sufficiently staffed to do that, and that's on a regular basis. That's necessary. When we run into instances like this, these types of incidents where there's a large crowd, our downtown corridor areas at bar closing, it's not unusual for us to utilize our partners. Cass County has helped us down there as well in saturation patrols, and so those relationships will continue, and we do our very best to prevent crime and apprehend those that are involved. But of course, we can't be at every corner at every second. So I think everyone is trying to do as best as they can with the resources available.
Just a question about that mutual aid relationship. I guess it's a logistical question. Considering the proximity of this assault to the other incident that the Fargo Police Department was responding to, what exactly was the sheriff's office that role tonight in terms of mutual aid? Was it case by case? Did you guys cover like a specific geographic area, or was the case such that Fargo Police Department was asking for mutual aid across the entire city? If you kind of get where I'm going with that.
What I will answer to the fact that this isn't the first time. Anytime Fargo deals with a critical incident, we gladly come into the metro. I mean, Fargo serves as our county seat. We have jurisdiction. On this evening, I don't know, again, the exact resources. As Chief mentioned, we could get that, but we do, when we come in and take priority calls, we do stage our resources, not necessarily in the amount of beats that the Fargo Police Department has, because we don't have that many personnel that come in and cover. But when you're looking at priority calls, we won't have 4 or 5 or 6 deputies on the south side of the city. We, of course, will have resources downtown, resources on the north side, and resources on the south side. We have a map that goes into play just because we've seen the beats and the vast amount of them. So the typical response would be that dispatch would get a copy of, these are your deputies, these are the locations, this is who you dispatch out upon their availability. So this incident, the 2 deputies that responded down to the 300 block of Broadway were downtown. I don't know the exact specifics or locations as to the previous call. But as I mentioned, as far as the timeline goes, they were 3 minutes away. So they were part of that downtown level of assistance.
Chief, not going to mention any businesses by name, especially some that like to threaten legal action, but there is certainly a perception in the public that there are certain establishments that contribute to this kind of behavior, be it by over-serving or generally not regulating the behavior of their patrons. Is there any thought to any punitive measures to any businesses that might be seen to contribute to this?
Well, I'm sure we'll certainly look at that, but I don't know that we have any information to indicate that that has anything to do with these particular instances. As we talked about the homicide cases, we do know that it's 2 groups of individuals have been feuding for some time and are involved in other gun-related incidents, as Captain Alfeld discussed yesterday. This particular incident with this aggravated assault victim doesn't really appear to be related at all, but we can't say 100% until we've had a chance to talk to that individual and certainly locate these individuals and kind of go from there.
Just a couple of logistical questions I'm not sure you'll be able to answer. The Sheriff's Department responded at 3:23, or got the call at 3:23. The first call came in at 3:08. What time did fire and ambulance arrive? Do we know?
I don't have that answer either.
From looking at the report, when the deputies arrived, the victim was in the ambulance on scene already.
Okay. Do you have surveillance video of the actual attack, or just...
We have video, and we are acquiring more video. At this juncture, what we are able to release are these individuals who we know are involved. And so we don't want to release any additional evidence that could compromise that investigation until we actually identify, locate, and catch up with these folks.
Are you able to say who called it in? Was it an acquaintance of the victim, or was it just a passerby?
I don't know that answer.
This is for the mayor, if Mayor Tim Mahoney could answer this. You have said on our air that you were going to have a meeting with the police chief about what has transpired since Sunday. You have basically said that you asked the police chief to hold a press conference that Sunday of the day of the shootings. He refused to. I have to ask you, you are the mayor of the city of Fargo. Why did you not take the initiative yourself to come out and say something? Even though the police chief was not here physically to do something, you are the leader of the city. Why did you decide not to do that?
This was an unusual case in which we had a shooting downtown, 3 victims. We had another shooting in South Fargo. And when the chief and I discussed a press conference, he was concerned about some things that might compromise the investigation. I wouldn't want to do anything to compromise the investigation. Plus, he also felt we didn't have a lot of information to give. Retrospect, I do it different because public wants to know and ask questions. We probably would have had questions we couldn't answer. So retrospectively, that's why I said policy-wise, we'll look at this. It's obvious from the press you'd like some response for some of us out there immediately or close to as quickly as we can. So I think it's going to be a policies discussion. We'll discuss with the press, what time would you like us to come out? Does it make sense to have a press conference early in the morning? Does it make sense to maybe have a press conference a couple times during the day? But I think we will discuss that. The other issue is at one time we used to have police officers every shift give a response, and sometimes the information wasn't correct or the data wasn't correct. So part of what we do as the police right now is we want to give accurate information, and you don't accidentally want to be looking for somebody you shouldn't be looking for. A lot of changes I think that have happened in policing that we didn't have before. We have a lot of cameras that are out there. We have a lot of people at the crime center is there, in which we have our team working. You called the investigators in 3 a.m. or whatever, and we started working the case right away. But if I'm going to compromise something, I would not want to do that. Now, I do understand from the press, they'd just like some answers, so we'll get that. We'll get in time we have anything happen, we'll sit down and talk to the press.
Sorry, but do you have confidence in your chief?
Pardon me?
Do you have confidence in your police chief to stay on?
Chief and I are going to have a discussion. You guys are pushing this. There's the regular ways in which you go through things. The press wants to have it faster than that goes. That's not the way the world works. You need to sit down, have a discussion, go through the facts, go through what went to happen, and those things are going to happen. So we'll tell you when those things happen.
My question is for Chief Cebulski. Just curious, I know that you're looking at surveillance video in regards to this assault. Looking at these pictures that have been provided, how exactly, what is this? Was this a Snapchat video? Was this cell phone video of it happening, in real time? And looking at just one of the suspects holding up some kind of hand, don't know if it's a gang sign. Is this gang related?
Yeah, we have no idea on any of that. I can tell you that the photos are still photos from the video that we've acquired.
Just my last question, I promise. Chief, you previously described this night as catastrophic, and now we're learning that it was even maybe a little initially worse than we thought. And yet you maintained at the same time that there's a perception issue, but that downtown Fargo is safe. Do you still feel that way? Has that position evolved at all, or would you still characterize this just as a truly unusual night?
Well, I would characterize it as an unusual night, and I think if you look at the other 90% of the year, that would bear that out. But yeah, I think this was a pretty horrendous night.
All right, that was our final question. Thank you.
Thank you.